It'd be great if all of us could start off investing, put in the exact amount of money we need each month to meet our goals. Well, we all know that's not realistic, right? But what the roadmap does, what the plan does, is give you goals to try to reach, right? So if we can start at point A and try to work up to getting to those goals over the next 3 to 5 years, right? It's much better doing that than just kind of blindly going into retirement and saying, I'm going to invest in this and I'm going to put X amount of dollars away a month, and not really knowing what does that look like 20 years down the road.
Hey everybody, thank you for joining us today on the Biz Reveal. Today we have Brad Haley with us. He lives in Cape Coral, Florida with Monica, his wife of 11 years, and his young daughter, and also has a 20-year-old son. Now, he spends his free time outdoors coaching sports, playing sports himself, or fishing and hunting. Now, with over 8 years in wealth management, Brad will review with us how to manage the ups and downs in a volatile market, current market environments, long-term investing, and ways to get your money to work as hard for you as you do for it. Now, after the show, you can reach Brad directly at brad.haley@edwardjones.com or go straight to his website at edwardjones.com/brad-haley. With that, Brad, how are you this morning?
Morning, Craig.
Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
All right, so today I know we're going to be talking about financial investing and what business owners can do with their money to make sure that it's there for them on a rainy day, and how to get their money to work harder for them. Before we get started on that, though, because that's a serious subject matter, I have to ask, is it true that you have a pig at home?
Yes, that is very true.
How did that happen?
Great question. So shopping one day for some supplies for some of our other animals, and discovered one last little pig that was available, and decided to surprise my family with him and brought him home to the house. So now he's part of the family.
I didn't know I'd ever hear anybody say the last pig that was available.
Yeah.
That's usually when I'm shopping for bacon. I know that sounds really bad. I'm sorry. I'm so ashamed of myself. So today you're going to be talking to us about financial investments, how a business owner or entrepreneur can get their money working a little bit harder for them, possibly even making money for them when they're asleep. I'm assuming, I hope, because I would certainly like to make money while I'm sleeping. So tell us a little bit about what you do and how you got started in financial investing.
Okay. So the first thing that most clients or potential clients come to me and ask is, where do I get started? Right. And that's the key, right? Where do I start? There's so many things, so much different advice out there, so many different opinions. And really what we take is an approach. And basically it starts with you and I sitting down together, figuring out, right, what's most important to you. Because what's most important to you could be completely different from one of your friends, right? Is it, in fact, planning for retirement, or maybe saving for your kids' college, or life insurance, or long-term care, right? So all these different things that come into play are all part of wealth management. So what I do is I sit down with my clients, find out what's important to them, and then we design a roadmap, right? What retirement looks like 20, 25, 30 years down the road. And in order to get there, right, there are certain things that we have to find out. And several of those things are tailored to each individual client's needs, right? For example, when you'd like to retire, when you and your wife would like to ideally retire, right? How much you'd like to retire with. Is this goal possible, right? Because some of us have goals that may not be realistic,
right?
So we have to discuss that, figure out, okay, can we retire at a certain age with a certain amount of income coming in? And then most importantly, how do we get there? What do we have to do between now and our desired retirement age to make sure we're prepared for that, right? And so basically we're creating a roadmap, a retirement roadmap that lets you know what you have to do between now and retirement to meet your goals.
And does it take, because one of the things I've always wanted to do is start doing that. And I'm guilty of not having prepared for that soon enough. Does it take a lot of money to get started? Because I know a lot of us, we're starting a new business, or, we've got so much invested in our business, we don't have the extra money to put aside. So what what does it take when you first get started? And I know that might be loaded because for different people, different strokes. But what does it take when you first get started? Do you have to have money up front, or are you just taking a little bit here and there? How does that work?
That's actually a great question, because that question comes up a lot. And one of the reasons that I'm a business owner with Edward Jones is because I'm able to help out everybody, right? No type of minimum requirements as far as certain amount of wealth to get started, right? So it could be simple from somebody wanting to get started with their first time, contributing $50 to $100 a month, or up to, $50,000 a month. So I have clients within every range, right? I work with a lot of school teachers, firefighters, police officers. I enjoy working with a lot of the individuals who are in public service, right? Helping them understand their work retirement plan, as well as supplementing that with additional retirement resources. So the short answer is there really isn't a minimum, right? It's what you're able to do. And when we create that roadmap, as I mentioned, right, it'd be great if all of us could start off investing, put in the exact amount of money we need each month to meet our goals. Well, we all know that's not realistic, right? But what the roadmap does, what the plan does, is gives you goals to try to reach, right? So if we can start at point A and try to work up to getting to those goals over the next 3 to 5 years, right? It's much better doing that than just kind of blindly going into retirement and saying, I'm going to invest in this and I'm going to put X amount of dollars away a month, and not really knowing what does that look like 20 years down the road, right? And that's what I find a lot of is a lot of clients who may have met briefly with a financial advisor, or maybe started some type of IRA or 403B years ago. Really, that's all they did, right? They started contributing a little bit of money, but they never actually had a financial plan done for them. And that's what I specialize in.
What does that process look like? If, from day one, I wanted to sit down with you and discuss, okay, let's do this. Let's get my roadmap. Mm-hmm. How's that process start? And kind of just walk me through the general process of getting my financial situation for long-term.
Okay. So one of two ways. I love to do stuff face-to-face in person, right? So either at my office in Fort Myers or in your living room, I would sit down with you and your spouse, right? Ask those questions to gather information, right? So doing my fact finding, what's important to you, what our goals are, spending about 45 minutes to an hour, right? The initial appointment, doing that. And then I go back and do my homework, right? I go back to the office and I put together your plan based on all the information you've given me, right? I come up with a plan for you and your spouse. And then we sit down the second appointment and go through that. And then from there, we try to put that plan into action, right? And get started trying to reach our goals for our financial foundation.
So it's pretty simple for the client.
It is. It is. With the technology we have today, the software takes a lot of guessing out of it, right? So we're able to make it as convenient as possible. And that's a great point, because a lot of people think that it's so involved and you have to spend so much time, and really you don't, right? You can make it as simple or as, in-depth as you want. And I really leave that to the clients, right? When we have our talk and figuring out what's important to them, what they'd like to do, right? Okay. So that's just all part of the fact-finding process.
And when those investments are made, what investments are made? Now, I know that the specific ones are going to be different from client to client, mm-hmm. but what are the different subjects that you look at, or the different types of investments that you're looking at for people? Great
question. So investing, whether it's with a firm, on your own, an employer plan, all starts with your tolerance for risk. And what that simply means is your ability and your comfort level with the ups and downs of the market, right? Because if you're someone who's very conservative, right, and does not want to take any risks, wants to be in something more fixed, guaranteed, that's important, right? So your investments have to meet your risk tolerance, right? Your comfort with risk. So you may be someone who wants to be very aggressive at a younger age, and I might meet somebody your same age, and even though they know maybe they should be aggressive at a young age, they're not comfortable with that, right? So that's where it all starts. My job is to make sure that the investments that I am suggesting for you meet your tolerance for risk.
So keeping them comfortable, obviously, is going to be the most important.
Absolutely, 100%.
So if I'm somebody who is moderately aggressive, and what types of where are the investments made? Are these stocks then that are in the stock market? What types, or are these like IRAs? Where are the investments themselves made, or does that make a difference as far as your risk level that you're wanting to be at?
So when you hear the words such as IRA, Roth IRA, 403B, 457, 401k, right? All these nomenclatures, those are just tax type plans. And what I mean by that is you can have the same exact investments inside of an IRA as you do a Roth IRA, or an IRA as you do an individual account, right? So those names that you mentioned, those are just the tax types, right? Are we deferring taxes? Are we paying after tax dollars? Inside of all those different types of plans then become the different investments, right? One of the nice things that Edward Jones allows our clients to do is inside pretty much any of those different plans, we're able to tailor the investments once again to meet your needs. It could be a mixture of stocks, mutual funds, ETFs, bonds, CDs, money markets, right? Combination of all of those, or maybe just one of them. The key to any good quality investment plan is being diversified, right? You hear that word a lot. You hear it on TV, diversified, right? Diversification, making sure that all of your money is not in basically one basket, right? Mixing it up so that you give yourself the best opportunity to make money over the years as the market cycle changes.
And that's just so if one part of the economy is impacted, it doesn't impact everything that you have invested.
That's
right?
exactly right.
So that you can help, well, I took a hit on that one a little bit, but I have these other areas that are staying strong until that one comes back up.
That's exactly right.
And I think that also, you want to be sure that you're investing in a lot of different areas. And the other thing to consider, help me out with this one, but is how long are you investing for? Long-term, short-term? And I guess most people are investing for retirement. So that would be a long-term investment, right? So your risk is probably dwindled down just a bit because you're looking at a longer term, not just a short term.
Well, that's a great point. And right, that's all kind of relative of where you're at in your life.
Age-wise.
Correct. When you start. But typically, yes, Edward Jones, we deal with long-term quality investments, right? Things that have been around for years, way before you and I. And the reason they do that, right, is because we specialize in helping the long-term investor, right? We're not day traders. We're not trying to just invest and get out a week later, right? We're investing our money into long-term quality investments with companies that all of us have heard of.
What? Give me an example of what that would be. What's considered something that's been around for a long time?
So when you think of mutual funds, right? Mutual funds are a mixture of several different stocks, bonds, fixed income, different things, all in one mutual fund, right? We deal with all the large companies, right, that have been around for years. Things you might have heard of, such as American Funds, JP Morgan, John Hancock, right? So all these different companies that have been around for a very long time, Edward Jones uses their platforms, right, so that we can help our investors.
Is that just for stability purposes because they've been around for so long, the likelihood of them staying around for longer, so it's a little bit more secure?
It is. And we just, while we can't say more secure, right, we don't really dabble in startup, right, type things that have no history. Every investment that I offer to a client has to be approved by Edward Jones, has to be backed by them, right? So not only am I looking at what's right, you have hundreds of people, right? Thousands of people.
Lots of people looking out for you.
Correct. Making sure that what we do is in your best interest.
What part does life insurance play in those investments? And I know we weren't going to go into the life insurance aspect of this too much, but I do know that life insurance can add financial stability long-term for especially for business owners, because if something should happen to you, you still have a business that you want to carry on after you're gone. So what aspect does the life insurance plan play in your long-term investing?
So life insurance, in my opinion, is one of the single most important pieces of managing your wealth. whether you're a business owner, whether you're a family, you have a spouse, children, right? Because give you a scenario. I have a 23-year-old who wants to start investing, and maybe her budget's $100 a month to start investing. Now she has 2 small children, and she's the breadwinner in her family. Should something happen to her and her income is now gone, right? I like to say that $100 a month you've been contributing for 5 years, what's going to put your family in a better situation? That $100 a month you've been contributing for 5 years, or that life insurance policy that you purchase that can help replace your income, God forbid something happens to you, right? So finding that balance and finding those needs is very important, because it may be more important to one person at this point in their life than it is the other.
And when you have these types of investments, whether it be life insurance plans or the actual investments, is this all individual based, or they're company based plans where my company itself can be invested in these, or is it based on the individual?
Great question. So we do both, right?
Oh, wow.
So I work with individuals and help them invest in certain IRAs, right? Roth IRAs, your individual plans. Whereas I also work with business owners where we can do 401ks for the whole company, simple IRAs, SEP IRAs, a lot of 1099 contractors, realtors, right? I'm able to help them with SEP IRAs. So short version or short answer is I'm able to help individuals and businesses alike.
Okay. So can you do both?
Correct.
So as a business owner, I can have my own set path and then also another path for my business itself.
Absolutely.
As well as potentially for if I have employees, my employees, or if I have independent contractors, I can offer your services to those independent contractors to help them start setting their path as well.
Absolutely.
And I think that's very good, because especially when you're hiring new employees, one of the best ways to get employee loyalty and to keep those employees and not have that turnover is to set something in place that's long-term.
Absolutely.
And the best companies that are out there that don't have that turnover have long-term plans that keep them there longer. And I think that's a very smart thing to do.
Absolutely. I agree 100%. One of the most powerful things as a business owner that you can offer are benefits, right? Unfortunately, these days, it's very tough, right? A lot of small business, it's tough to offer those health plans to those employees. So there are plans, right, that out there for small business owners that allow them to do that. And even if they can't do a lot of contribution on their own as the business owner, still making it available to the employees is a pretty powerful thing.
First steps. And again, I know there's a wide range of people, but the first step that a listener would take, if they're like, listening to this podcast, like, I like Brad, or, I just need to look into, I have a buddy, maybe it's not you, maybe it's just a buddy who is in, financial advising, whatever the case is. What is that very first step somebody can take? Because for me, this is all new and it's very scary and I don't want to jump into it. And you've acknowledged that at the beginning. What's the very first step I could take without just being frightening?
Very simple. Just pick up the phone.
Just simple as a phone call.
Pick up the phone, text me. Cell phones 239-357-0340, right? Let me know what you're thinking. All of our consultations, all of the retirement planning piece, right? We don't charge our clients or prospects for that, right? So it's really making sure we're a good fit, right? That's one of the biggest things is working with a financial advisor, making sure, one, you trust them, that they have your best interests in mind, right? So we have to get to know each other, sit down together, figure out a plan and go from there.
What's the difference between what you do and somebody investing in, say, the stock market?
Okay. So meaning on their own?
Yes.
So lots of people have done very well, right? Investing on their own through platforms online, TD Ameritrade, right? There's tons of them out there. And there's nothing wrong with that at all. I have several clients who do both, right? They have more of a diversified plan with me and do some investing on their own through stocks, through a platform. But one of the biggest things I would say is who's there, if you're doing it yourself, who's there to give you advice or tell you maybe when it's time to make a change or make some adjustments, right? Now you're putting that all on yourself. And if you're comfortable with that and you're good at it, right, then that's great.
Sure.
But most people just don't have the time, nor do they want to have to constantly watch their investments to know, okay, when should I buy? When should I sell? right? So that's where a financial advisor comes into play.
Yeah. And I think just having that educated person this is what you do.
Mm-hmm.
You're a professional at what you do. And a lot of us who have our own profession, of course, pretty much all of us,
Mm-hmm.
If you're starting a business, you're probably juggling a lot of hats, right? If you're a small business owner, you're doing everything. You're the manager, you're the accountant, you're the bookkeeper, and you're the hiring manager. You're doing everything for your business. So one less thing on your plate would certainly be helpful.
Absolutely.
And that's where somebody like yourself comes in, and you can have your guy. Like we all need a guy or a gal. I got a guy. We all need that, and I think that it's very important to have somebody that you can trust. So how do you build that trust in other people that you meet to do that? Because I know that anything that we do, it's all about trust and relationships. Mm-hmm. How do you build that trust with people?
Well, I think
this is their money we're talking
right.
about.
I think with anything, whether it's financial investing or insurance or, mechanic or whatever it is, right? It takes a little time, right? And knowing that person is always going to do what's your best interest, right? That's the key, right? Is finding somebody that you can trust, working together with them. And I think for most people, they could tell pretty quick, right? When you sit down with someone, I know I can. If I sit down with someone and they're just trying to sell me something or steer me in a certain direction, right? I don't get a comfortable vibe from that. And that's what I love about what I do, is that I don't have to steer in any particular direction towards any particular investment, right? It's all about figuring out what is best for you. And then we build that plan based on that.
So you basically just provide the options and allow your clients to make the decision on what direction to go with your advice. Of course, your educated advice on what would be most helpful, or what you've done in the past, or how other clients are moving along with those same types of investments or same types of risk.
Correct. And another big aspect of that is, right, is asking you, how much involvement do you want, right? Do you want to be hands off? Because I have clients who don't want to be bothered with the day-to-day trades and maneuvers, right? So hey, Brad, you and Edward Jones handle it for me. I trust you. This is the platform I want to go in. Whereas I have other platforms where clients like to be involved, right? They like to come up with their own ideas and run them by me and say, hey, what do you think? So Edward Jones allows our clients to kind of pick between any of those platforms, depending on what you're really interested in doing.
Okay. I'm going to go a little old school here.
Okay.
Is there any benefit to the old fashioned savings account? Like grandma and grandpa told us, put your money in the savings, and that way you have it for a rainy day. Is that still relevant today?
So great question, right? And I get that one quite often. We recommend, right, industry-wide as financial advisors, that any person has a comfortable, right? And this varies depending on your situation, but I like to see my clients have at least 6 months cash on hand for a rainy day in the event they lose their job, right? Something catastrophic happens. Because if they don't have that cash on hand for emergencies and we just start investing and something should happen, now we have to take out of their investments. And depending on the timing, it could put them backwards from where we started, right? So I really like to make sure that clients have enough cash on hand before they start investing. But then to go a little deeper into that, because Edward Jones is a large investment firm, right? We're able to put clients' money in insured bank deposits, money market accounts, right? So there are lots of different levels of investing. I have clients who that's all they do. They put their money with Edward Jones just to have it in a money market account because it's better than what they can get at the bank, or just to get a brokered CD because we can offer them better rates on CDs than, let's say, they could get by going to the local bank. So great question. And yes, savings, right? It's still important. It's important.
So it's a combination of both.
Correct.
Okay.
Important to have that money, a certain amount.
One's an immediate access, and then the other one's a long-term
correct
investment.
Yep.
I hadn't really thought of it that way. I had a question for you, and it just totally slipped my mind as I was talking about that. But with the savings account, because I know a lot of people don't have that much. I mean, I'm not sure what the statistic is these days, but it's something like 3 weeks or 4 weeks.
Right.
So if somebody lost their job, they can really only survive for about 3 or 4 weeks until something else comes up. So the first thing I think maybe somebody would want to do is be sure to start setting some money aside in their savings account, and a direct access savings account before they look at investing long-term.
It's one of the best pieces of advice is actually that I could give anyone, right? Not to say you can't start, right? Or start planning, right? And we still would go through the process and start planning. But yes, if we were sitting down and looking at your whole situation, you said, Brad, I'm ready to start contributing to an investment plan. This is what I have available. One of the questions I'm going to ask you is, Craig, how much money do you have available on hand, right? What if your water heater goes out or your washing machine or your car, right? Last thing we want to do is have to throw something like that on a credit card at 15% while we're trying to get a return on our money, right? So we want to make sure we can take care of certain emergencies, unexpected events. And that's the important part about having that cash on hand.
And that also kind of creates the habit of putting money aside like you would be if you're making an investment. So if you can start working on setting that money aside to put into your savings account, then you're getting into that habit of putting that money aside. Now you built your savings account. You got a good liquid cash sitting there in case that emergency pops up. Once you're at a comfortable level there, then you can start putting that same amount of money aside for your investments.
Absolutely. And that's the hardest part for those who have not started yet, right? It's just getting comfortable and getting used to that kind of out of sight, out of mind. Okay, this money doesn't exist, right? It's getting invested or it's going for my savings, what have you, but getting used to living that lifestyle and putting a little bit away.
Gotcha.
Right? We like to say, as you get a raise, right? Or as you're making more money as a business owner, give yourself a raise, right? So that's the time to increase your investments.
Awesome. Perfect. Well, we're almost out of time today. I do thank you so much for joining us. I know there's a lot more we can talk about. I think we'll have you back on this show and maybe we can pinpoint certain aspects of investing because right now we're kind of just summarizing the whole thing. But maybe we can have another episode where we're talking about just like the different investments you can make and what the differences are between those. I think would be very, very helpful for all of our business owners and everything.
Absolutely.
So thank you for joining us today. Please let everybody know how they can get in touch with you after the show if they have any additional questions for you.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, Craig. And feel free to reach out. Send my direct number is 239-357-0340. You could call or text. Emails brad.haley@edwardjones.com.
Beautiful. Thank you, Brad, so much. Guys, I hope you guys got as much from this as I did. I know I still have a lot more questions to ask, and I'll probably have a lot more after the show that pop up to my head. But if you do, please get a hold of Brad as soon as possible. I'm sure he'd more than be happy to help you out. Tune in next week. We got some more great shows on the line. Thank you for joining us at the Biz Reveal. Till next time.